Alrighty, going live, going live. Let's see who is all here, and let's also make sure that the audio is working the way that it should. Okay, fantastic. Audio is indeed working. It's what we like to hear. It's what we like to see. And a good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you guys are at. Hope that you are doing well. And for tonight, ooh boy, yes, I will be taking on AI. But first, we shall be chatting about food, which is quite appropriate since I just finished eating dinner. That's why I'm just a tad bit late getting this live stream started, and my intentions are to make people hungry as well. Arts, there he is. What are you, an AI? The plot twist. Oh, please no. I do not want to wake up one day to find out that I've just been an AI. Then I'll actually have been a true AI, hopefully, unless someone is dictating all of my whimsy, wit, and horrible luck. Hannah is here. Hello, great to see you here, Hannah. And also, Hannah, congratulations to you for continuing to go up through your illustration tournament. Hannah's been sharing a little bit of her progress with us over on Discord. Or it says, no, you're too genuine to be AI. Well, thank you. So I says, I hope that you kick AI writing ass back in the dump. Well, when we get to that point in the live stream tonight, I will explain to you guys how exactly I am going to do this, because like a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to try to find a way of like outperforming AI, which I think some very, very good authors can do. The problem is that AI is always constantly being made to learn and to improve. So instead, rather than striking at AI's brain, I'm going to be striking at AI's heart tonight and taking that down. So a little preview for what I shall be getting up to tonight. And you're very welcome, Hannah. All right. So to kind of give people a little bit of time before we really dive into this, and I really wish I had the time to slap together a montage from Delicious in Dungeon of all the cooking shenanigans, because I'm really excited to talk with you all about food. And I am hoping that we can also get some great interactions from everyone here in the chat, going about some of your guys' favorite foods, both real and fictional, and just get some fantastic conversations going, because food is an underutilized literary element, in my personal opinion. Arts asks, think we're close to Skynet levels of AI? No, not. I don't think so. I really don't think so. However, for anyone who's keeping up with current trends in military technology, will probably realize that all the tools necessary to make Skynet are there. We just haven't yet been able to create something that is true artificial intelligence. The best way of describing it as it currently stands is simulated intelligence. It can only literally do what you tell it to do. It cannot act of its own volition, even when certain things are programmed into an AI program. It really has no sense of self or autonomy, which is what the AI program Skynet had. It could choose for itself. CDVA, hear me out. AI generated armies. Now then, funny you should say that, because as much as we like to take a crap on AI, and sometimes deservedly so, during the production of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for a few of the different set piece battles, Peter Jackson's people over at Weta Workshop, and with a couple of different companies, developed effectively AI programs for all of the different miniature soldiers. to then kind of act and do their own thing. So if you spend enough time just staring at the screen for the Lord of the Rings large set piece battles, you'll see some very interesting stuff happening like on the periphery. And that's because the AI programs that were developed to move these masses of soldiers to interact against each other actually led to them acting way more natural. So when you watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the large set piece battles, where you can tell that there is CGI happening in the background, those are CGI characters that were programmed to act certain ways based on input information. So effectively, really, really early AI, and it looks pretty dang good. Art says they look also messed up with the current AI technologies. Well, yeah, no, it's weird because CGI really has gone backwards, and when you add in the AI element as well, it's still just we have stepped back into the uncanny valley, and I don't care what CGI artists have been saying recently, where they're like, we just need more time. We just need more time. Give us more time and we can do amazing things. Laziness has taken over. True laziness has taken over. I think one of the most interesting things that I heard about a film's production in terms of like CGI and innovation, like this was absolutely heartbreaking to hear, was that you had this old props artist. Hey, ISO's here. Hello, great to have you here, ISO. There was an old props artist who was on the set of some movie, and the director and cinematographer began to complain to each other and then to the rest of the crew that there was like some stuff in the way in terms of set design stuff. They had not built the set, but they were using an actual location, had kind of built the set around it. And they're like, ah, dang it, like that clock shouldn't be there. And we really, that vent, I just don't like that vent. I don't know why, but they didn't like the vent. And there was also some furniture in the way. And they're like, man, what are we going to do about this? And the director's like, well, we got to shoot today. You know, we'll just edit this in post. We'll use CGI to cover up these things that we don't like. The old set designer walked out onto the middle of the set, didn't pay attention, just completely ignored the director complaining at him, moved the furniture around, and made the set look the way that the cinematographer and the director said that they wanted it. And he's like, there you go. I've just saved you $20,000 at least. And all I had to do is just rearrange some furniture. And that's the thing, is that CGI artists these days are not even really asked to truly create interesting things anymore. Instead, CGI is used to clean up shots that lazy directors and set designers created because they've just their skill has retrograded, and it's retro in a bad way. So yeah, that's one of the many reasons why CGI just does not look good these days. Is because honestly they are utilized far more for other projects and goals than creating really awesome battles or really cool looking monsters or aliens or ghosts. For crying out loud, the pinnacle of CGI has basically been Davy Jones's beard, the Lord of the Rings armies from the original trilogy, Smaug, and the first Avatar movie. Second Avatar movie, people can at me in the chat if they wish on this, but honestly, the second Avatar movie by James Cameron looks bland. It is insanely bland. His take on an alien ocean is one of the most boring things I have ever seen. It was not impressive at all. And so when the visuals can't make up for the bad writing or subpar acting, it becomes very apparent very quickly. All right. Okay, that's my CGI. My pre rant for CGI and AI. Let's get into cooking, shall we? Because I think that that'll be way more enjoyable. And it says I accidentally switched off YouTube. It happens. It happens. CDVA says not great to see how new tech is being used, but cool to learn about. I'm going to major in film when I start college in a few months. Hey, awesome, CDVA. Great that you are going to college. I hope that it's a fantastic experience for you. Uh, on that, I hope also that you have a wonderful time learning film because it is so much fun. I think I've brought this up before on a live stream, but I actually really wanted to major in film production when I first got to college. The reason why I didn't was because my portfolio was really lacking, even though I had been working on it back in high school. And on top of that, I was planning on going to serve a mission, which meant I was going to be out for 2 years. And so that would then mean that 2 years without doing anything for my portfolio, with technology advancing as rapidly as it was, I was going to be so out of the loop. And I feared that I would have a really hard time getting noticed even within the program. So in a way, my own fear and pride led me to give up on that dream and instead go into history, which was my next best subject. Art says, "Yeah, be one of those great artists." Yeah, exactly. We need some great artists in film these days, and we need a good, strong new generation to just bring life and innovation to cinema because we need it, and I want to see it. And there's so many great stories that have yet to be told. For those people who say that all the stories have been told, my answer is nay, not even close. Sure, all the archetypes have been told, but they haven't yet been told by you, which makes them wholly and truly unique. And Wit from the Stormlight Archive agrees with me. All right, so get ready to get hungry. Which, to be honest, I actually am not super hungry because I literally just ate. But I've wanted to do this topic for a little while. I have mentioned it. Actually, I have dedicated shorter videos to the idea of using food, but I think this is a fun idea for an actual sit-down lesson and just get into the nuts and bolts with you guys about food and stories. Art says, no one has made a movie about two goobers sharing moss in a romantic fashion. Not yet. Not yet. It should be done. Okay, real quick side story, because obviously Arts is referring to Chris and Susie. If I had the money to throw down on this, I absolutely would spend the money on a full on Demon Slayer level of action and epicness animation of Chris, Susie, and Ralsei versus Jevil. That would be the most amazing thing thus far that could come out of Deltarune in terms of visuals, in my opinion. Because that fight is absolutely bonkers. The music is great for it. And with the way that the stage is all set up for the Jevil fight, you can imagine them, if it wasn't turn-based style, just running around frantically, trying to not get hit by Jevil's insane attacks. Whereas with the Spamton battle, which is really cool and way longer in its own right, that one you're locked in on rail tracks. So you're stuck having to go up against Spamton Neo and just outlast him with all of his insane attacks. Whereas with Jevil, just the way that it's set up is just perfect for an insane animation battle. Art says, didn't someone do an animation of the trio versus Spamton Neo? I don't know about that. If they have, I want to see that. All right. In any case, let's continue on with this. So, goals. Understand the do's and don'ts of fictional cooking. And we want to explore your own creativity when it comes to food. We want to be like this. We want to be like this sexy lass right here on the slide, and be creative. Use the ingredients and everything that are at your disposal to make fine cuisine. fictional and real. CDVA says, I love the fan content and storytelling that comes out of Deltarune, maybe even more than the game itself. Definitely the game has inspired a ton of great stories and a ton of just great works of art. But musical, animation, written, the works. So, first off, food is important. Duh. But how? Why is it important? Food conveys so much information within any story, and it facilitates all kinds of experiences for the characters to have. A couple of weeks back, we talked about whether or not, we talked about a writing exercise that people could use to explore characters and conversation. And I said, write your characters ordering a pizza. That is just one of many, many examples of what you can do with characters and food. Another example is that, for instance, a lack of food can open up explanations or explorations within your story about wars that are happening, or supply chain failures, or famine, or the overtaxation by some evil lord and his rotten sheriff of Nottingham. There's all different kinds of things that you can explore with just how much food or lack of food is there at the table, because food says something just simply by being there. Different foods speak to real or fictional cultures. One of the things I always like to bring up when I was teaching, when talking about about cultures crossing each other, and how people take from different cultures stuff that they really like and kind of mish it together within their own. Tacos. Tacos are one of the greatest examples of the world coming together to develop one of the tastiest things on your dinner plate. Seriously, a flatbread fried or rolled on up, the flatbread goes back to the Middle East, whereas the style of what they're doing is more Turkish and Greek, and yet used with the innovation of Spanish and Native American cooking techniques and spices and ingredients all brought together. So you basically have the Middle East meets Greece meets Spain meets Central American Native Americans to come together to develop the taco. Oh, it's so lovely. And it says, hey, is there some folklore stories that I have never seen before? Oh, yes, there are plenty of folktale stories that most of us have not seen that are just waiting for us to discover. And I've actually had this on the Discord about one of my upcoming books utilizes a way lesser known fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys later. Art says food can be used as a trigger for old emotions, happy memories, etc. Exactly. Like for me, for Lars, when I smell goulash, oh, that takes me back to Christmas, because that's the Christmas meal each and every year. And no one in the family wants anything other than goulash, because that is just the choice. That is the tradition. And all the memories that come with it. On top of that, it's not just simply goulash. There's loads of different kinds of goulash. Specifically, people think of a more Hungarian-style goulash, which is nice and spicy, loaded full of meats and vegetables. In my family, we use a family recipe from the North German side of my family, where they didn't use any vegetables other than onions in the mix, but it was far more focused on all of the meat that would go on in there. So you could have beef, pork, and mutton all in this pot, and it's just, oh, it's so good. Memories. Art says, like Chris sneaking Toriel's pie at night and Toriel getting annoyed at the fact that Chris didn't share again. Yes, Chris, you've got to share that pie with your mom. Dang it. And she's making it for you. Pies take time. Pies are work. Don't just take it all, kid. Now, other things you can learn, and this ties in with Chris sneaking Toriel's pie, you can learn about a character's personality based on the foods they're willing or not willing to eat, and also how they eat it. This is where we realize that this is where we get more evidence, I should say, of just how much of a trickster and prankster Chris is, with how they freak us out at the end of chapter 1 to then go and eat an entire pie and not save any for Toriel. And they really, really, really love butternut scotch. Another character, for instance, again, Toriel, could show off skill and personality based on their knowledge of how to cook and bake. And there is a lot, actually, like when we come back to Deltarune, think of, at the end of chapter 2, as Toriel is showing Susie how to make a pie, we get to see some of that teasing side of Toriel and realize that it's not just Sans who's able to bring that out of her, but when she wants to show off and be friendly with other people, she can be really funny and quite warm. And that's definitely something that Susie needs in the moment, and it helps her to feel more comfortable around Toriel. So Toriel uses her proficiency at baking not only to make a fantastic pie, but also to help Susie just feel at ease. It's a really great, sweet scene. And again, your cast of characters might have a very important conversation while eating, or maybe the food is just so good that it derails the conversation. How many of you have ever had that happen before? I have. One time going out and eating at an Indian restaurant, the curry was just so good that people just stopped talking because there's like, oh, it's so good, just stuffing our faces with curry and delicious fresh baked naan. Oh, so good. Chris is a little food goober. Yes, they are. So, already, just thinking about the game Deltarune and food, we get to learn, yeah, Chris is a little food goober. We learn, unfortunately, through the lack of food that Susie has, that she's not only very hungry, but she's very poor. And the pie that Susie and Toriel are making together is a way of bringing two characters together who might not otherwise have really gotten along. And not that they couldn't get along, but that Susie always felt like Toriel was in a completely other world that she didn't deserve to be in. And even when she's in the house at first with Chris, she's all stiff and everything. She's like, yes, ma'am, staring up at the ceiling as if she's about to get punished for something. And it's the baking of the pie and the invitation to join in and eating this delicious dessert that allows Susie to start being more of herself and develop a positive relationship with Toriel. That's the power of a good food scene. That's the power of good food. Artsal says, it's certainly a different environment in an Indian restaurant. That it is. Especially if it's an Indian restaurant run by actual people from India. And it's a whole lot of fun. Art says, Susie insists on leaving at first when Tori comes out, but when Tori mentions pie, she's like, okay, I'll come in. Exactly. The pie. Food just has an excellent influence on people in real life, and you can play on that within your own stories. Food opens up all kinds of opportunities. And we're going to get into some of that when we get into the examples that I have later on in the slide. All right. So, thing also to understand here is that people love to cook. Yes, there are some people who think that they can't cook or can't bake, but really, a lot of people do love to cook. Not everyone goes out to eat, and because cooking allows you to explore. Cooking allows you to eat what you really want to eat. And it just feels good. It tastes good to make something yourself and then to enjoy it. It just works that way. So never underestimate people's willingness to explore fictional or real dishes. When folks get hungry and curious, they'll try things out. This provides you with a unique opportunity to interact with your audience by providing details and the means for them to recreate those dishes. So if you use real dishes, again, tacos, because tacos is a great example, or curry, make sure to describe them accurately so people can look them up and enjoy them. Do not be like the Great British Baking Show with their tacos. You got to get this lovely taco right here. No sane person puts a large slab of meat into their taco and then puts a huge dollop of guacamole followed up by spiced diced onions and tomatoes and thinks that that's a proper taco or taco. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love the British accent and everything, but they have no idea how to say taco. They can do it's like, all right, got myself a lovely taco right here. Like, you can do it. It doesn't have to be taco. Oh, that episode of the Great British Baking Show is so rough to watch, especially for someone like me, who I don't live in Mexico. I live on the border with Mexico. I get to see a lot of Mexican cuisine. I get to eat a lot of fantastic Mexican cuisine. I get to be around a lot of abuelitas who make wonderful food. I know what this stuff is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to taste like. Even though I know that not everyone makes a Sonoran taco. There's all different kinds of tacos. For crying out loud, you do not put a huge slab of meat into the taco with a single dollop of guacamole, sprinkled then with diced, spiced tomatoes and onions. There's so much more that goes into a taco. That taco should have ground up meat, or at least cut that meat up so much finer so that way it fills the shell or fills the tortilla. Ugh. Hey, I love the Great British Baking Show as well. It is a fantastic show. But their Mexican week was an absolute disaster. You do not make a 3-tiered tres leches cake. It falls apart. It is a very soft cake. CDVA says, would it be a good idea to make up food based off what kind of animals are in your fantasy world? Yes, it would. Because, again, food tells us a lot about the environment. So if you have fantasy animals, then you want to include what kinds of fantasy meats characters might have. Might have at their disposal, what they might put on in there. Like if I were to actually, for instance, go into the wizarding world, I 100% would want to know what dragon meat tastes like, because I want to know if it's as gamey and weird as eating kangaroo, which you wouldn't expect. But yeah, kangaroo just isn't quite as tasty. But then again, I feel like I need to get fresh kangaroo meat, because I got kangaroo meat in Austria, which was really weird, and it probably isn't as good as getting meat directly from the Australians. And it says, interesting. It is. It says, I concur. It would add a unique element to the world and serves to flesh out the story. Yeah. And a great example of actually seeing that done is this image that you see right here, Dungeon Meshi or Delicious in Dungeon. If you have access to Netflix, watch it, binge it. It is amazing. It's effectively Dungeons and Dragons mixed with cooking. And it's a really, really fun show. And basically it teaches you how you could make all different kinds of dishes, mostly Japanese style dishes, using fantasy creatures. And it is hilarious and makes you hungry. And it looks fantastic. So yeah, you can come up with all different kinds of ways to show that fictional meal. And so thinking about how people will figure out how to make stuff, I recently went to an Alethi dinner at a friend's place. So for the release of the book Wind and Truth, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive series, a friend of mine and his wife were like, hey, we are going to have an Alethi-style dinner, which means, if you're Alethi, the men and the women dine separately. That's just the way the Alethi are. And the men eat very spicy food, and the women eat very sweet food. So very different kinds of things already. But one thing that everyone can agree on is chowder. What is chowder? Chowder is a very spicy, weird, diced up meat that you put into basically a burrito. And in the story, the Herdazians who love chowder are basically the Mexicans of this fantasy world. And so based off of their description and what Sanderson describes chowder to be like, what they effectively made is they made a kind of chorizo and then wrapped it up in a thicker flatbread, more thicker than tortillas, to really create the chowder experience. And so that's just one example of people being like, hey, how would you make this meal? And we want to make chowder. So they look in the story, they pick out all the clues, and like Cardassians are like Mexicans. This is basically chorizo, just spiced differently, and you have to use actual thick flat bread. Alrighty then, and it was delicious. The different wines, quote unquote, because like no one here drank alcohol. They had to get a little bit more creative for that. However, I was just watching a documentary last night where these people in Canada figured out how to make wine that has some of the colors of the wines in the Stormlight Archive. It was pretty cool. All right. So yeah, if you go into any sort of detail about your fantasy food, please do give people details. Let you yourself get into the details. Have some fun with what exactly should this look like? What should it smell like? What should it taste like? Even if it's fantastical and we don't have a unicorn so we can eat on hand, people can be like, okay. So based on this description, if I use these real world ingredients, I could try recreating that. And it's fun because this gets people to really engage with your story. You're basically inviting them to try to step into your world even more by enjoying your world's cuisine. That's the beauty of putting food into your stories, putting food in detail into your stories. Now, here are some things to do. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means. But this is basically to give you permission to have fun with your food in your stories. So first off, feed your characters because they gotta live, right? And as Aladdin says, gotta eat to live, gotta still eat. Otherwise, we get along. That's basically it. You gotta feed your characters because they gotta live, and maybe they're like Aladdin and they gotta steal to eat. So feed your characters. Use food to express culture and personality. Because again, there's so much you can communicate with food. And get creative. Not everything is mac and cheese and ramen, folks. You can have fun coming up with all different kinds of foods. And the more creative you get, or maybe the more cultural you get, especially if you're going to dive into some real world cultures with your food, provide some recipes where applicable. That can be a whole lot of fun. And there's some very creative ways that you can include recipes in stories without having to pump the brakes and say, measure out 1/4 cup flour, please. Use meals to facilitate character interactions. Again, like Toriel and Susie. Just one example of thousands of great examples of characters interacting over food. And I highly recommend this. Try the meals out for yourself. So, for instance, in my book, Notice Me Senpai, there is a part where the characters decide they are going to make a pineapple pie. Pineapple does not sound like something that would very easily go into a pie, and it doesn't. And it's a very, very unique tasting kind of pie. However, if you manage to pull it off, it's quite the experience. And so having had the experience of eating a pineapple pie, that was one of the reasons why I put that into my book. So try it out yourself. Or, for instance, I got another scene that I'll bring up later. I just dunked on mac and cheese, but where characters make mac and cheese, and I tried to make mac and cheese the way that they did. I was missing a fantasy ingredient, but I still did what they did, and it made some very creamy, delicious mac and cheese. Art says, there seems to be this stigma with pineapple on pizza. Never had it personally. You got to try it out at least once. For everyone who says that they don't want to have pineapple on pizza, unless you've tried it out once, you should at least have it once. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's okay. If you're like me, you really love pineapple on pizza. Oh, so good. That combination of the sweet and savory. So good. Now then, here are some don'ts. There are some don'ts when it comes to using food within your story. Please do not make a mockery of real-world cultural dishes. Yes, you can poke fun at how Kraft mac and cheese is unhealthy. You can make fun of how gringos will get the runs from eating traditional Mexican food. And you can also poke fun at people spilling their gyros or their dooners down their fronts because they don't know how to eat it. You can also poke fun at how people might try to bite into a Berliner, which is a filled jelly donut. If you are an American who has never had a Berliner before, you will be shocked by how much jam is in that donut. When you bite into it, it explodes in your face, unless you know how to eat it properly. So you can bring that stuff up, but when you start mocking a dish, like, oh, those people from over there with their horrible smelling food, and it's so bad that you can smell the reek off of them like days later. Yeah, that's not okay. Unless you're writing a character who's meant to be awful, you can write that, but you then as the author should probably be responsible and be like, yeah, not everyone thinks this way, and actually the food is really good. Characters can be awful. You shouldn't be to other people's cultures, their food, which all encapsulates their heritage. So yes, please do not make a mockery of real world cultural dishes. That doesn't mean you can't have fun. That doesn't mean that you can't create some really silly experiences. But make sure that you do not mock real world food. Because if you do and you end up going to that country later on and someone has read your story and knows that you mocked them, they will find a way to get revenge. I guarantee it. And it says, I have pineapple brisk tea with pizza. Interesting. I know that there was a brisk pineapple tea. ISO says pineapple pizza is good for people who have that taste. I like it. Excellent, ISO. You are a man of culture, of pineapple culture. TV count. Sorry, I'm late. I had to bury Leo. What did I miss? TV count. Sorry for your loss. I know you told us this on Discord, and I hope that you're doing well. What have you missed? You've missed the introduction for the lesson and talking about some of the things that food can do for your story. How it can open up character interactions. It can detail world building information. It can tell you plot information, can give you stuff about the characters based on what they want to eat, how they like to eat, what they don't like to eat, so on and so forth. Food tells us so much. So there you are. And then also here's another thing. And I know like this is going to sound really weird, me putting this in here, but it happens. So please don't do it. Don't get mad at people who make the fantasy food differently than you. Now, I have seen this kind of debate happen before. Now, this is mostly amongst fans. I don't think that J.K. Rowling is too upset if someone makes butterbeer differently than the official way. But I've seen people like go to town against each other because of the taste of the butterbeer. And I'm like, if it tastes good, it tastes good. What does it matter? There are some people who get really upset if the fantasy meal isn't made exactly the way that they specified. And sometimes people just make the food differently because that suits their taste. Maybe they can't eat one of the ingredients that you've said because they're allergic to it, or maybe they didn't have everything at hand and they innovated. And innovation is the heart of being a good cook, Remy. Yes. Another don't is don't ignore food altogether. Yes, if you're writing a very short story, then sure. If you're writing a really quick kid's story, then sure. But if you're someone like me and you're writing epic fantasy, your characters have to eat at some point. Don't pass up on that. Tell us more about your world via food. If you've got characters, for instance, like in the Da Vinci Code, who are on this epic like 24-hour quest, one of the things that you can say, hey, what, dude, Dan Brown, have you ever tried going 24 hours without eating anything? I have. It's a pain. And you want me to think? critically and big and run and sprint on no food, yeah, that is a very quick way to exhaustion and a nasty headache that will last me until late the next day. So please let Langdon eat some food. So yeah, don't ignore the food altogether. And don't provide recipes for food with the intention of getting people sick. There are those trolls out there. There are those people who will absolutely try that. Don't be a troll. Don't be mean to your audience, to your readers. If you provide recipes, provide good recipes. If in your story, let's say that you want to have a scene where someone's trying to whip something together, some kind of food, and it's meant to be nasty, for it to like play into comedy or into horror, then do that. And people will know that's like, ha ha ha, that was for the funnies or that was for the horror. A good example is from Atlantis, the Lost Empire, with Cookie. There's a lot of great details revolving around Cookie and food throughout that movie. You fill my wagon with all the non-essentials. Well, look at this rutabaga cilantro. What in the non-concadoodle is cilantro? Cookie. What is this? It's a lettuce. The men, 4 basic food groups. Listen here, woman, I got your 4 basic food groups. Beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard. Which then explains a lot with the mush that he then serves them later on, because it's basically beans, bacon, and lard in a massive mush with probably a shot of whiskey to give it a little bit of spice as you force it past your gullet. Don't worry, everyone. This stuff will just keep and keep and keep. Yeah, do not make your beans the way that Cookie did, because that is going to give someone a stomachache, which is the joke in the movie, that Cookie's cooking is so awful that everyone waits until he's gone, and then they use the beans to put out the fire. Oh, man. So that's another great scene. That's actually another great scene because of food. All the different characters get together, and Milo finally gets to learn who all these mercenaries are that he's on this trip with. And even though it's a scene that's rather quick, and in some ways you could almost argue that's a little shoehorned in, it has so much heart to it. And like with the way that the characters are interacting with each other and with the food, it tells you a lot. For instance, like how Mole is the only one who can eat the beans without getting sick. It tells you a lot just how weird this guy is. And how Milo is trying to eat, and he's the one person other than Sweets who's actually eating with proper manners, even though they're basically camping. He and Sweets are the only ones that are actually using real proper table manners while eating, camping out, and eating this horrible slop. And then you can tell the others are just like, we don't really like this because of how they're just kind of playing around with their food and not really engaging with it. I says, and it explodes for some reason, so that's neat. Yes, that's right. And it says, LOL, yep. R says, I recall a scene where everyone reacts to Commander Riker's breakfast. Everyone displays disgust, but Worf the Klingon loves it. I don't remember that scene. I just remember when they introduce Worf to prune juice, and he drinks like, it's a warrior's drink. Because yes, drinking a bunch of prune juice straight, I've done that once. And I did that because I was told, okay, you need a good bowel movement, drink this. It's better than drinking milk of magnolia. Thank goodness. But, that was still, the taste. And that's actually another thing. Within the Star Trek franchise, there are some great moments with food in that series. Especially in the Next Generation, since there's actually quite a few scenes that take place in the cafeteria / mess hall area, and you get to see how different cultures and people interact with the foods that they get. Star Trek Voyager tried to do that as well, to varying degrees of success with their cook, who was constantly experimenting with different kinds of food based on the fact that they only had so much material and energy to run their replicator as they're constantly running. So he always relied more on fresh ingredients because the Voyager had to barter to get fresh ingredients just to keep the place fed. So the cook could get a little bit more creative, even though people are like, please don't, because we have limited stuff and we don't need a meal that makes us sick. Now says, oh geez, that character. Yeah, that character. He was an interesting guy. I appreciate having a character like him in the story, but yeah, it took some getting used to. So again, just more examples of food and stories. But yeah, coming back to again, please do not be a troll and do not purposely give your audience recipes for really nasty food unless you've made it very clear that it's meant to be nasty. Do not mislead people with recipes that you say are going to make something really delicious when they obviously won't. So yeah, there's that. It says, I have mixed feelings about him. I have mixed feelings about him as well. Again, the food aspect of the story, of his part of the story, is very interesting, and I like the idea of a character trying to embrace all these different cultures and different recipes. He was interesting. I don't outright hate the character, but could I live without him in the story? Yes. That's a great way of putting it, Arts. That's a great way of putting it. All right. So let's dive into some examples. I already brought this one up again, but I'll bring it up, but I'll do it here. Delicious in Dungeon Meshi. So dang good. It's such a fun show. Great characters with lots of amazing development and world building details, all wrapped into the food that they eat and the food that they share with others. I love how in one scene they avoid getting murdered by orcs because they have food and because they decide to cook for the orcs. It's like it's such a black humor scene because there's this absolute massacre of all these other adventurers just being butchered, and then they spare these guys because they're going to cook for them. So there they are in the next scene, cooking and then eating this meal with all of these murderers. And they're just carrying on like nothing happened, or more like that they do not want what just happened to happen to them. It's such an intense and hilarious scene. Oh my gosh, the way that food brings out different personalities throughout the series, the way that the food helps to explain the world, all of that is just Dungeon Meshi is a brilliant example of food well utilized within a story. You cook good, you live, eh? Yes, exactly. Then some examples from my own stories. Notice Me Senpai, which is a great story, if I do say so myself. Mindy, the main character, the little blonde girl you see up there at the front, is trying to get the boy that she likes to notice her, hence the title of the book. And she does it in her home ec class, her home economics class, where there's a lot of cooking involved. And so there's all these different moments of cooking with the successes and the disasters, and each chapter is named after a different pie. And I actually do provide the pie recipes at the back of the book. So you get all of the measurements along with the details, and there's also an extra illustration as well for people to enjoy at the back of the book. So yeah, this is a fun one. Then in The Marauding Empire, there's a scene with mac and cheese I already brought up. This was a really weird one to write. I enjoyed writing it because it was kind of demented. So Jessica, one of the main characters, is trying to make macaroni and cheese, and they need some milk and some cheese to make this happen. And lo and behold, one person's like, we got milk from a female minotaur. And she's like, that's nasty. We're putting that in. And so they do it. And when they make the mac and cheese, it's really like strong. Like it packs a punch. Like for any of you who have had sharp, powerful cheese, That's basically the experience that they get using Minotaur milk and cheese. And they're just all like, well, this is something. And then, like, the Dark Lord Sean arrives, and he just starts wolfing the stuff down. And people are just like, what? Things like, this is good. Like, we've put Minotaur milk into that. And it says, what? Yeah, exactly. I say there's an X-rated version of a story out there somewhere, most likely, about how someone gets the milk of the Minotaur. We shall not go that route. Instead, we shall turn our attention over to Tumble-Teller, Minotaur Milk the Flat Stare. One of the scenes in Tumble-Teller that was fun to write is when Mikulirian, the main character, the dragon that's there on the front cover, is invited down into the kitchens at Deathjaw's estate. Deathjaw is the dragon that she's been hired to perform for, to throw as part of the celebration for his daughter's birthday. And so as she's getting to know her audience in order to figure out the right kind of stories to tell, she's invited down to the kitchen to meet with Deathjaw's wife and daughter, where they are making chocolate chip cookies. Now, to a dragon, to a large dragon, a chocolate chip cookie is like nothing. So she has to transform herself into her human avatar in order to really enjoy the cookie. But she's just like, what? How do you have so much chocolate? And the reason for that being is because chocolate is expensive. Especially like within any medieval-esque setting, unless these people have made it part of their identity and their main economy to process chocolate, which without modern means is indeed a process. Chocolate is going to be expensive. And so it's a moment within the story that shows off that although Deathjaw, who everyone sees as this reclusive dragon, he could have been a king, he could have been amazing, he could have been so wealthy and so powerful and so popular, but he's chosen basically a life of pseudo-exile. And so you would think that this dragon then wouldn't have much in the way of means, especially to acquire expensive chocolate. And yet there his wife is, with loads of it, enough to make chocolate chip cookies for the entire estate and for all of the visiting dragons. And so it's a moment where Mikulirian's like, I do not understand this place. So again, how food can help to convey information. And while there's a part of her, like everything I've just said right there is meant for you to kind of figure that out as you're reading through it. Mikulirian has a little bit of commentary, but it's left largely open-ended, so that way if you wish to think about it, you begin to realize just how important that chocolate is, what it really means within a greater context. ISO says it's like the Dark Brotherhood quest from Skyrim. The quest to assassinate the Emperor. You have the option to make a good meal for him or to add all the worst materials. And no matter what you choose, you'll say, oh my, this is delectable. And then he'll die because he's poisoned. The spice of poison was just too much for him. CDVA says, nice to see some anime representation. I have no art skill. Get hand cramps, bad handwriting, literally can't draw a straight line or circle. By Loki, have an idea of an anime-inspired webcomic. Awesome. And you know what, CDVA? You can always work with other people to help bring those things to life, because I'm a horrible artist myself. But when I take the opportunity to work with other artists and creators, you can get some really, really cool stuff going. Then Meg says, chocolate. Did you just say chocolate? 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 I remember when they first invented chocolate. Sweet, sweet, gooey chocolate. I always hated it. Man, I love myself some good chocolate. Which reminds me, if I manage to find the time tomorrow, I'll have to try to whip up some special chocolate chip cookies, because my youngest nephew wants to make something unique and tasty for his choir class before the school year ends. And I was like, why don't you just make some cookies that have chocolate notes on it, like chocolate musical notes? And we thought about it, like that actually would be really cool. But I'm like, well, that'd be so hard because I've made drop cookies, which are delicious. But the idea of a drop cookie is that as the cookie is baking, the chocolate kiss or chocolate chunk sinks into the rest of the cookie, spreading it out. So how do you then get chocolate notes into the cookie? I'm gonna have to do some experimenting. Tyler Goodman, chocolate, chocolate. Oh, die süße, schmeckhafte Schokolade. So those are just some examples from my stories about the utilization of food to bring about character interactions, do a little bit of world building, a little bit of character development, so on and so forth. But there are other examples. I brought up Dungeon Meshi, but just got to put it in there again because it's so good. For those of you who don't know, in the upper left, that is where we have the Stormlight Archive, and what the one guy is eating, that is chowder. The Stormlight Archive has some really neat eating moments, and I love the character of Rock, who's basically a cross between a Polynesian cook and an angry Irishman. and he's the cook throughout a lot of the series, and he's really, really good at making what effectively is rock stew. Brandon Sanderson was having the time of his life with some of the hidden puns in his books, where Rock is making stew. And if you know the story of the rock stew is basically, I'm making rock stew. Oh, that sounds weird. Well, it's absolutely delicious. And it'll be even more delicious if you added in some of those vegetables you got right there. I guarantee it's going to be great. And the story of the rock stew is that everyone wants a taste of it, but they're only going to be given a taste if they add something into the stew. So in the end, the rock stew is just a giant mishmash of everyone's ingredients, and there's just a rock down at the bottom. Nick says he could also make cookies shaped like music notes too, and then he can decorate them with chocolate frosting and sprinkles. Yes, if he went the route of making a gingerbread cookie, that would especially work out really well. But oh my gosh, have you ever tried rolling out gingerbread? That's some work right there. And this is a young teenage boy. Unless he's feeling very motivated, I don't know if he's going to roll out a whole bunch of gingerbread. Plus, I like soft cookies. But yeah, I have to experiment a little bit with that. Let's see here. Ooh, a fun element within the Stormlight Archive, also in terms of food, is that there's a country called Shinovar, and Shinovar does everything more similar to like actual Earth. The rest of the world of Roshar has very interesting ways of making their food. And so, for instance, most people eat flatbread. And so when they find out that the Shin make full bread, like a nice big white loaf, everyone's like, what? Why would you have a big loaf of bread? Bread's meant to be flat. Bread is flat. And so they're really weirded out by big fluffy bread. The Shin also know how to make like proper meaty meals and the likes. And everyone's just like, why are the Shin so weird? And until people eat Shin cuisine, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there's one part in the 5th book where Kaladin is like, oh my gosh, there's so much flavor. And the one character who's Shin, Seth, is like, yeah, things are really tasty when you don't overload it with curry spices. Then we've got Harry Potter. So just think about this for a moment here. Think about all the scenes in Harry Potter that deal with food. There's so many of them. You get the really awkward scene in the 1st book, which isn't in the movie, of Harry going out to eat with his aunt and uncle and his cousin Dudley, with Dudley's best friend, on Dudley's birthday. Which is a really sad moment when you stop to think about it. But but like the food, shows that like helps to illustrate just how horrible Harry's life is and how special this day is for him, because he's at least getting to enjoy something tasty. You then have the cauldron cakes and the chocolate frogs and everything like that. All these delicious sweets which Harry would never have had the chance to eat before, and just inspired people because it just sounded so wonderful. Cauldron cakes, what are those like? Chocolate frogs. I have had a chocolate frog from London, quite tasty. And then, of course, just all the other great things that you could have there at in the Wizarding World. Pumpkin juice is one that I haven't warmed up to. I feel like pumpkin spice overwhelmed the idea of pumpkin juice. One of these days, we'll have to figure out if someone has actually figured out how to make proper pumpkin juice without heavily relying on pumpkin spice. But there's so much stuff again, so many different actions around food. You've got one showdown. You got one showdown in the Hog's Head. You've got the reveal about Sirius Black over drinks at the Three Broomsticks. You have a couple of really entertaining interactions around the Leaky Cauldron. Of course, there's all of the feasts that with just amazing food and great character moments throughout the book series. Yeah, the food. The food brings the kids together. Then there is the Hobbits. The Hobbit has an absolutely great scene, but like especially in the book, but it's also fun in the movie, around the unexpected party, the unexpected dinner that Bilbo has to give to all of these dwarves. And what is great about that scene is not only is it a way of introducing all of the important characters, setting up the conversation about how they need a burglar, and then Bilbo being so against it until that adventurous side of him wakes up the next morning and he rushes off and leaves all the dishes. How unhobbit of him! But that scene sets up a powerful emotional moment later on when Thorin on his deathbed commends Bilbo and says, if more of the world treasured good food and laughter and song, this world would be a far happier place rather than focusing on gold and power. The lifestyle of the hobbits, though it seems quaint, as Bilbo puts it in the Fellowship of the Ring, is a beautiful way of life. And the hobbits are all about the foods, getting 5 meals a day if they can get it. And you have that running throughout the entire franchise. How the hobbits are always trying to get more food, especially Merry and Pippin. How Pippin way overeats on the lembas bread for the one appropriate fart joke. And it's the only fart joke in the entire trilogy, but it's in there. Let's see here. Other eating moments. When Denethor is just attacking those tomatoes in the most uncomfortable way possible. It's a great scene to show just how unhinged this guy is and how gone he is, which is very different from in the books. Denethor in the books is intimidating, is cold, is calculating, and you fear him until his mind breaks later on. In the movies, Denethor is kind of just a laughable despot. But the scene where Pippin is singing as he's just destroying his food and his son is riding to his death, as Faramir is riding to his death, it's such an intense scene that clearly communicates how broken Boromir's family is and just how awful of a person Denethor is. And it's communicated through the food. No, before anyone blames Denethor for getting his son shot and nearly killed, everyone blames Denethor for offending them with the way he ate those tomatoes. He says, food, glorious food. We're anxious to try it. 3 banquets a day, our favorite diet. Yes. So, those are just some examples of many, many examples of food well utilized in a story. and the opportunities that it creates for all of us. So, let's let us now move on to your writing assignment. What I want you to do is this. I want you to write a scene where characters interact over food. Use the scene to communicate aspects of the world, the characters, etc., whatever it is that you wish to communicate, can help to communicate it through the food. And find a creative way to make the recipe available to the reader. Like either how a character explains how they made it, or that you get to see the characters making the food together and they talk about the recipe. Find some kind of interesting way of communicating the recipe, or at least some of the recipe, to your reader through your story. Let's see here. Ooh, I did so. I actually did this for a writing challenge with Chris and Susie. It was a Cruzy fanfic using the Great British Baking Show. Where the characters are all trying to make different bakes, and I add in a little bit of the recipe, a little bit of the cooking and baking techniques into the fanfic. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can communicate the recipe. You just got to get a little bit creative with it. So let's see here. I'll take a drink of water. I'd like to see you guys here in the chat, like, already kind of throw out an idea of what kind of food scene you might write for an upcoming story, or for a story you're right now working on, or maybe you're not even going to use it for a particular story, but you're like, oh, you know what? I actually do have an idea of what I might try to write if I were to write a food scene. CDVA says, I think fanfics and maybe role-playing in a way are unironically great ways to practice writing. CDVA, I 100% agree. It's one of the reasons why we have an entire playlist of Dungeons and Dragons videos, because role-playing in Dungeons and Dragons is a great way of learning and applying writing lessons. Megs says, also off topic, but the food in anime, especially in Ghibli movies, looks incredibly delicious every time. I know, right? Oh my gosh, the breakfast scene in Howl's Moving Castle it's weird because the environment is so dirty and so cluttered that you're supposed to be like Sophie and feel reviled by it, but the food looks so dang delicious. They're like, I would sit down there and I would eat at Hal's dirty table if I could have some of that sausage and eggs. CDVA says maybe some characters who just met can sit together and eat, taking a stop in the narrative to show the characters bonding and getting to know each other naturally. Yes, that's a good example. This is actually, I'll write down here in the chats so that way I also participate. One of my ideas for a food scene. So those of you who remember when I was telling you guys about Gear Witch and I did the whole like writing the opening for Gear Witch, I have a scene. I have some scenes for Gear Witch that I'm looking forward to writing. So the band of magical thieves run a tea shop as a front to hide their illegal activities. The tea shop and bakery are actually the dream job of the team's muscle. So the muscle character, she wants to be a prim proper lady and actually All right. Let's see here. Let's get this show rolling again. Can people hear me? Hopefully so. What happened? My electricity died on me all of a sudden. Uh, I I have no idea what on earth what on earth really just went down. That was really strange. So you can hear me now. Okay, that's good. Whoo. Uh, yeah. Say my electricity died. I do not know how that happened. Everything cut out and it came back on. So uh so yeah, I apologize for that. I'm glad though that the stream didn't completely die. It went down, but we're back up and running again. Uh CDVS is the background gameplay pre-recorded. It is, because if this had just gone down while I was playing live, this game would have taken a while to bring back up. How long did the outage last? Literally a second. Everything went whoop and then came back. So I'm gonna have to figure out what exactly was going on. The little Lars lore right here, and this is a little bit disturbing for exactly what just happened. I live not only in an old house but in a Frankenstein house. The particular house that I live in was experimented on decades ago by the people who developed my neighborhood. The developers lived in this house and a couple of other houses, and this house was where they experimented with a lot of their projects to see what would happen. And that led to a really weird wiring of my house. So that's probably the reason for why this happened. Art says a few weeks ago I lost power for like 3 minutes and I came back. Oof. Yeah, see, it's just it's yeah, it's no fun. No good. Anyway. Coming back to my writing prompt. Sounds like something you might want to get checked out. CDVA, yes, and let me tell you something. It's not for lack of trying. There is no qualified technician, electrical technician, who actually wants to touch my house because my house was illegally wired. It's weird. Whoever built this place did not build it strictly to code. So yeah. Again, qualified electrical engineers do not like coming over to my place because it freaks them out. And if they do something wrong, it's on them. And they're like, I don't have the insurance. So yeah, unless you paid me $50,000, I am not going to work on your house. Mick says, wow, it's kind of cool. I wonder what they experimented on. Everything. This house, and when I say it's a Frankenstein house, I mean it, because it was built in all different kinds of weird ways, doing all different kinds of things. I used to have a very dangerous swimming pool that had to be torn out because it was so unsafe. And that came down to the plumbing, because they did the plumbing really weird. It was really janky. There's also like a weird tunnel thing that connects one of the bathrooms to the attic. I don't know why, it just is. There's also a room that was illegally added on. Yeah, all different kinds of things that these people did to this house. That when it was sold, it was just like, shh, don't mention that. Anyways, Lars lore. So let's see here. So I was talking about a scene from talking about a food scene that I would like to write for Gear Witch. And so that is that the thief gang runs as a front their own tea shop. The muscle in the group has always wanted to be a baker and loves this idea. And yeah, so they serve tea and cake, and one of the other guys provides the entertainment. And so I have all different kinds of scenes in my brain for what I want to have happen at this tea shop that is a front for that's a front for this gang of thieves. And how like they interact with their customers, how they interact with each other. For instance, the muscle has a huge crush on one of the guys in the gang. So she's always trying to make things that she thinks is really going to that he's really going to like. The thing is that she's lowborn. He is from a disgraced noble family and is used to the higher things in life. So she's always like, "Oh, it's not going to be any good for him. It's not going to be any good for him." And that's something that she freaks out about. And I intend for there to be some scenes where the patrons at the tea shop, when they get wind that the baker, the chef, likes the guy who does all of the book readings for us. Oh my, drama! And so all these old ladies who come to the tea shop are like, "Girl, we absolutely are going to help you get together with him. And you gotta listen to us." So I intend for all of these different tea shop moments to happen in the middle of a story that's dedicated way more to the politics within the city and the magic and the drama and action of these thieves pulling off their heist. But to kind of like provide those moments of levity and to slow things down, I fully intend to utilize that tea shop to its fullest. Nick says, "Wow, sounds low-key frightening. Kind of is giving me Bendy vibes, just with the whole experimentation and confidential illegal stuff." Yes. Houses made back in the late 70s, early 80s. Woo-wee. Art says, "It reminds me of the Gang of Thieves in Final Fantasy IX. Tantalus that runs a theater ship as a cover for their illegal activities." Yeah, it's a great idea. And it says a lot about these characters. All right, so if any of you other guys have some ideas for your own food scenes, then feel free to share them there in the chat, and I am going to start getting things ready for my game / duel against AI. And I'll explain to you here real soon what exactly is going to happen. Because the way that I'm going to tackle AI is rather different than what I think a lot of other authors would think of in terms of how do I beat AI. And so I'll take you guys through what I'm going to try to do. I need to let's see here quickly. Writing a book with AI. I need to I'm going to add into the right now very lacking description for this live stream. I'm going to add into it 2 links to videos about how any artists here who are watching this can poison their AI art, not their AI art, poison their original art to bring down and screw up AI engines. I was watching some videos on this, and I think the word must get out there even more because AI is just beginning to get more and more ridiculous. And for any of you who were there for my my Elden Ring playthrough, where I was using that as a way of ranting about why people who celebrate tariffs on Hollywood are a little dumb, what those things will actually do to us. And I brought up how tariffs on Hollywood are only going to speed up the process of AI just taking over so much of the creative process and pushing out real workers. I recently watched a video from Doomcock. If you don't know who that YouTuber is, he is a purveyor of Hollywood gossip and rumors, and does it all under the guise of a comic-ish evil villain. And he was sharing a rumor that he had gotten from his people in Hollywood about how the upcoming Avengers movie is very likely being written with AI. There are writers who are credited for the making of the movie, but there is no evidence from anyone on set that the writers have actually shown up. No script has been presented to the actors, and instead the Russo brothers have a notebook that they've been relying on. And so there's speculation that this could very well be an AI-driven project. And so, yeah, Arts has seen his work. He's he's something to get used to. But I do enjoy his videos, not only for the comedic way that he likes to deliver his scoops, but also because he's one of the few rumor mongerers on the internet who is willing to accept when he's wrong, when he's gotten something wrong. And I mean, that's points already to him, but he also has a very good track record of being right. And so, like, if anyone wants to get into some of the rumors of what's happening in Hollywood, he's a pretty good guy to go to. Again, if you can get used to him, because he's not for everyone. But anyway, so I heard that and I was just like, yep, already right there. And it just makes sense. Producers and directors want to be able to just crank out stuff super, super fast. And to get ready for what I'm going to do tonight, I experimented just a little bit, for instance, with ChatGTP. And it horrified me just how quickly this AI engine could produce a whole chapter from me giving it some detail and just a little bit of what I wanted, and then boom, there it was. And this is what so many producers and directors in Hollywood are looking for. They want to be able to just use an AI engine to immediately crank out whatever story they have in their heads without having to work with any writers. This way, they can think of themselves as great creators when really they aren't. They're just commissioners, and they can cut out a middleman that they no longer have to pay. And in their own brain, they think that they're getting exactly what they wanted. We as authors and as creators in general, we should know that effort is needed to make anything of worth. That there is real skill involved. And simply stealing it from other people via AI is just stealing it doesn't actually make you anything other than a thief. That's honestly what it is. You can have someone craft, and you could have someone craft an amazing novel using AI. If you take AI away from them, there's a very good chance that they would absolutely suck as an author. That might mean you can be a great ideas man or woman and still be a horrible author. And so that's what I think what would really happen if you stripped away a person's AI engine. Because if only ChatGPT existed while I was in high school, would have used to help me out with my difficult math homeworks. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that there's so many kids these days who use AI now to help them out with their work. And like, I can understand we use tools to be able to overcome difficulties and issues. But the thing is that, for instance, our homework and our tests are there to see if we can actually properly utilize the skills that we're supposed to learn. If we actually don't know how to properly utilize the skills that we have, then when we find ourselves in those real world situations where people are like, when am I ever going to need to use this? You suddenly find yourself in a really bad situation. Like, for instance, me working on the tabletop to do a mini battle from the Stormlight Archive, I need to know how to use geometry and use it well. If I didn't know anything about geometry, I would be really at a loss for making this table, because you need geometry, and not just simple geometry either, surprisingly. TV Count says, I hear it's more expensive to use and run these programs. Depends on the programs, but yes, it can be very expensive. And there's so much speculative money. One of the best ways of thinking about AI right now and the money that's wrapped up in it is how people actually treated oil back in the late 1800s. When oil was discovered, here's a fun little fact for you. Most people didn't actually know what it should be used for. As a result, loads of people, they knew that oil was going to be important, and there were people who said oil will be the next gold, and so people were like, ooh, oil is the next gold, which indeed it is. But back in the 1800s, they didn't know that, and so speculation caused the price of oil to go up, and there was all this investment in oil. The funny thing is that, and actually kind of the tragic and horrifying thing is that actually when oil production first began in the United States, America lost so much oil. It's eye-watering. It's mind-boggling just how much oil was lost, how much of the country was destroyed looking for oil. And it was all wasted because people didn't actually know what they were getting themselves into. And it's kind of the same way with AI right now. AI is a tool that when we know how to properly utilize it, we'll be able to use it to its best. We'll be able to control it. But right now, AI, no one really knows what to actually make of it. It's all speculative, which is why so much money is wrapped up in it, because, ooh, it's big and shiny. It's also why so many people are abusing AI rather than figuring out how to properly use it. We're basically in 1800s oil right now with AI. Everyone knows it's special. Everyone knows it can be important, but we're just beginning to figure it out. And the people who are starting off have no interest whatsoever in trying to be safe or healthy about it. Just like the early oil tycoons actually had no idea what they were doing. Rockefeller had no idea. Rockefeller had no idea that oil could be important. He did not. It was only later on in his life, when more people began to realize how oil could be utilized, did he truly earn, quote unquote, earn his wealth. Because all of his wealth was speculative up to that point. Fun little fact that most people won't talk about when it comes to Rockefeller. Because even though people hate Rockefeller as a robber baron, people still to this day idolize him. But really, he didn't know what he was getting into. No one did at that time. Then CDVA says, I think AI is showing a bigger problem in a lot of industries and areas, especially in education. It is. It is. AI is revealing a whole lot that we need to reconsider. Hannah says, that's insane. I agree. Meg says, reminds me of that great oil spill that happened in the ocean years ago. Yep. Oh, yeah. What happened in Pennsylvania as a result of oil back in the 1800s is just devastating. TV Count says, also, maybe instead of bringing people who use this stuff, we should try and encourage their creativity and develop it. Because I think the people who use this are those who are afraid to even try. Right now, yes. Because real creators are trying to figure out, because here's the thing, as I've been paying attention to different creators, people are trying to figure out how to best use AI in a way that will improve their art. But it's so new, it's so speculative right now. So the people who are really experimenting with it and using it are really those who, as you said, TV Account, are those who are trying to get around actually putting in the effort. I'm looking at you, Shad from Shadiversity. You yourself even called yourself out in one of your own videos, and I don't think that he realized that he had. At some point, oil became even more valuable than gold itself. Exactly. And AI has the potential to actually be a real force for good and something very helpful in loads of industries. But right now, it's just being used to rip off art and just create this weird, uncanny valley. Even though, yeah, it's getting better, it's still not the true creative process. It's just glorified commissioning and then creating stuff via theft. So, yeah. There's your art. Yeah, like the skill to draw. So what I'm going to do tonight, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of a much larger project that I hope by next month we'll be able to show you the results. What I'm going to do is I am going to compete against ChatGTP. And there's plenty of other AI Pro engines I could go up against, but those cost money. I'm going to go with free ChatGTP, which people do champion as being so wonderful. There's loads of YouTubers, for instance, who hate Disney and Disney Star Wars, who use ChatGTP to quote unquote write better versions of The Last Jedi, still to this day. And they're like, see, look, AI is so much better than Rian Johnson, which, yes, I can agree to that, but also at the same time, you're kind of missing a lot of the points. And that's what I want to get into with this particular project. Because at the beginning of the live stream, I said, I'm not going to aim for AI's mind. I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try to defeat it there. Instead, I am going to aim for AI's heart. I am going to go to the heart of the issue. One of the things that I like to say, and because it's true, is you need your stories. Your stories need you. And the world needs your stories. Let me break that down in order to better understand the conflict that I have with AI. So, you need your stories. The process of actually sitting down and going through draft after draft after draft of your stories is hard. It is very hard sometimes. And yet you grow. It's like working out. You need to go through some pain in order to build up some muscle and build up some endurance. With writing, you build up a certain kind of endurance and skill, but you also build yourself intellectually and to a certain degree spiritually as well. Intellectually wise, because you learn how to better communicate your characters, your thoughts, your worlds, your ideas, your great ideas. You have to work on how to deliver that. And that requires you to develop actual skills. Your vocabulary expands. You grow as a person by writing because of the way that the writing process causes you to change, because it challenges you. That is what writing does, in part. And also what writing does is it fills you with a sense of accomplishment. If you could get everything that you ever wanted just by simply typing in some things and then clicking go or load, there's no fulfillment. It basically degrades a beautiful, long, personal process to clickbait and cheap wish fulfillment. That when it's like that, there's no real reason to dedicate yourself to writing, because you yourself have lost everything that you could have gained from writing, other than that the story's finished. And one of the things that I would like to ask is, did you even know your story? Is it really your story when you don't take the time to engage in it, write it for yourself? Now, your stories need you. Sure, your idea that you put into the engine, to the AI engine, that's your idea. That's your baby. Yeah, but here's the thing, is that your stories actually need you to bring them to life based on the ideas and the experiences that you have. As you write, you will be living. You're going to be doing things. You're going to be learning things. And as you continue to learn and grow and experience, you're going to add those details, those experiences, those lessons that you've learned into your writing. Your writing starts coming to life in a new and unique way because of you and what you yourself live through and what you yourself do. You are giving actual life to your characters and to your worlds thanks to what you yourself go through. An AI engine, even if you feed it tons of detail, cannot replicate your experiences, nor the way that you see those experiences when you write at 6 a.m. or 2 p.m. or at midnight or at 1 a.m., whenever it is that you write. Who you are at that time is filtered by that time of day or night and the experiences that you've gone through that day and how you try to stitch that all together from chapter to chapter, from thought to thought, from day to day as you write. That is your lived experience that you are injecting into your story. AI cannot replicate that because AI is not living your life. So as a result, it cannot give true life to your story. It can only give what it stole from other people. And when you do that, the moment that people realize that you wrote something using AI, they lose interest in it. Because deep down, subconsciously, spiritually even, they realize that this story did not earn its life. It did not earn what you could have given it. And so when I say that your stories need you, they absolutely do, because if they are not getting life from you, it's not truly your story. It is a stolen experience from someone else and becomes worthless. So you need your stories because of how you grow as a result of writing your stories. And your stories need you because you are the only one who can give it that life, that can make it truly unique. When I asked Christopher Paolini at Phoenix Fan Fusion about how a friend of mine said that I shouldn't bother with trying to write a dragon story because every dragon story had ever been made, and I posed that to him because, hey, like, he wrote a dragon story that ripped off a ton of other dragon stories. I wanted to know his thoughts, and what he said is true. Those stories have been told, but you haven't heard my story yet. And what I come to realize, looking back at it, is that, yeah, that story, my stories, my dragon stories, could never take on life unless I put that life into it. And it's my life that makes them unique. Because to a certain extent, every archetype has already been written. But what makes these stories new is that you write them. If you're not writing them and it's just stolen and compiled from other people's works via an AI engine, then it doesn't have any life. It's a Frankensteinian freak that hasn't walked off the table slab and taken on life of its own because you didn't give it life. All it is an idea, a fleshed out idea that's missing its soul. Next, and finally, the world needs your stories. Think about this here. The world is so full of AI slop right now. And I think I might, like, later on show to you guys just how much AI slop is out there in some of the fields that I really enjoy. I'm a historian. I love history. I especially love Civil War history. It's a hobby of mine that I've developed over the years. Where I'm like, I want to know more about this incredible moment in American history. And there's so much AI slop about the American Civil War, and half of the stuff it delivers is false, and the pictures are just atrocious. And yet these channels get so much recommendation, they get so many views, they can pump out so much of it because it's an AI engine just churning out slop by stealing stuff from other people. And AI, a great channel, Time Ghost History, which you guys should absolutely check out. It's such a great channel. And they've been doing history now in amazing ways for about a decade. They talked about how AI has been largely attacking and destroying the historical community because AI slop is overriding all of the good researched work that is far more accurate and meaningful. AI slop is taking over everywhere, and right now within the publishing world, within books, there's so many AI books that are just getting cranked out left and right that again just have no soul whatsoever, and it's completely flooding the market and devaluing and degrading books and stories. Unless we take that back, and so this process that I'm going to begin tonight is meant to show you guys in time that I am right, that you need your stories. Your stories need you, and the world needs your stories. And if we are going to take on AI and put it in its proper place in the world of writing and publishing, we are going to do it by striking at its heart. And its heart is that it steals the heart and soul of written works. So the way that we're going to do that is through this. I'm going to write out my steps here in the chat. So step number 1. I am going to compile everything I need for a first chapter to my book, Whitefire. Whitefire is the book that Tumblteller, it kind of got spun out of. Tumblteller, if you want to look at it from a particular perspective, is basically a prequel story to Whitefire, which is meant to be a very large, very in-depth, very intense, and somewhat dark fantasy take on a world ruled by dragons. And it's a story idea that I've been toying around with for almost a decade. It's been a really, really hard one to try to write. I have like a third of a rough draft that I'm going to completely toss out because it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. And I've gone on a long journey trying to get to the point where I can write this book. And I think a good way of getting myself to write a little bit more of it is to take on AI. So tonight, you guys will watch me compile everything I need for the first chapter of Whitefire. And then I am going to have ChatGTP write its take on my first chapter. And I will not read it. This is important right here. I will not read what ChatGTP comes up with. And instead, I am going to deliver that. I'm going to deliver that chapter to the rest of Camille's harem. One of the reasons why I do not want to know what it wrote is because I'm competing against it. I am competing against it to write this chapter. And I do not want to be influenced by what it has to say. And most specifically, I do not want to be in a position where I'm intentionally writing things different than it just to try to prove myself better. No, I want to consider this as if it was a duel. Skill upon skill, strength upon strength, crashing against each other right now is how we're going to do this. So I'm going to deliver the rest of the chapter to Camille's harem. And they will read this chapter, and they will come up with critique and questions based on it. When we have our harem retreat next month, we're going to get the whole harem together, we're going to have a retreat, and we're going to spend some time just hanging out as friends and having writing parties. It's going to be great. I am going to have them ask me questions about what ChatGTP wrote, and they're going to treat it as if it was my story. and I will have to answer their questions without knowing what ChatGTP wrote. Is my connection to the AI strong enough? Is my connection to its story strong enough that any of that heart has been communicated? Or have I just given it an idea? That is very important to consider. So they will ask me questions based on that. Then, so step number 4, then they will read my first chapter. And they will review and critique it. So see, okay, so how did it do? Did ChatGTP outright Lars? Okay, fine then. But even if ChatGTP writes better than I do, if it's clear that my heart is not in what ChatGTP wrote, it doesn't matter how well it was written, it lacks the life that I could give it. That's very important. The next step is this. All of you will be given both versions of the first chapter to Whitefire. And, and you guys, you will have to figure out which one is AI and which one was written by Lars. So there will be a vote. Which one you think was written by Lars? Which one you think was written by AI? And then step 6, you will tell us which one you liked more and why. Before you know which one. And I was putting here before the identity of each chapter is revealed. So these are the steps that we are going to be playing with, and in this way you can see why this is going to take a little while to really pull off this particular experiment and challenge, because it's going to take a lot of work. I have to write this, and it will then have to be read. It'll have to be analyzed. We're going to have feedback. We're going to have some guessing games and everything. And depending on how this particular experiment goes down, if it's a success in that we are able to pull off all of these steps and get a lot of great feedback from everyone, I would love then to replicate this with other novice authors and see how they feel about all of this, about utilizing AI, about their own stories. Again, would they believe what I have to say about how they need their stories? Their stories need them, and the world needs their stories. That's what I would like to see done more. And that's the thing, is that, again, ChatGTP and other AI writing engines will beat us, a lot of us, in terms of just sheer quality, because it can steal from the best. But that's not the real question. The question is the author's heart really there? And honestly, if you've commissioned a work, sure, you can claim it as yours, but you didn't go through the process of making it. And if you didn't make it, how much of it is actually yours beyond the copyright that has your name attached to it? I mean, that's the way that I look at the artwork for a lot of my books. I love the artwork from my books. I love it because I got to work with amazing artists who did amazing work. That's not my artwork. It's theirs. I'm just very privileged to have it. Yes, I own it because I paid for it, but I didn't go through the process of making it. but all of those stories are 100% mine because of all the effort I put into them. And so anyone who buys them, uses them, any artist whose work is attached to that story, sure, they can claim that as theirs, but it's not truly theirs. And not just because the copyright says otherwise, but because you, as the audience, will know Lars through those stories. So, that is my preaching for this. Now then, the the sudden power outage did make things a little bit silly right here in terms of things getting taken down and the likes. So I got to quickly pull up what was lost. And okay, so let me. Okay, only Lars can do Lars. Exactly. Only I can be me. All right, let's share the screen. We shall share the whole screen and nothing but the screen. So help me, Bob. All right, here we are. ChatGTP. What can I help you with? And yes, I did a little bit of work to figure out how ChatGTP would respond to me. So I did prepare a little bit ahead of time. I will be showing you guys some things that I've added to that I'm going to show you guys some things I'm going to add to my write-up, just so that way things are more fair between me and ChatGTP. Again, because I don't want to undermine the AI. I want this to be a fair fight in terms of killing it by going for its heart. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do it by the rules. All right, so what can I help you with? Write a chapter for a book. Okay, so. All right, so here's an interesting thing. It actually gave me different questions than the last time I tried this out. So genre, tone, characters or settings, chapter number, place in the story, length and preference, etc. Or if you like, I can just surprise you with a random chapter in a popular genre. Let me know. No, ChatGTP. We are going to fight. You and I are going to fight honorably right here. No surprises. So, let me jump on over to what I need that picture right there. This is what I wrote up earlier. So this is a high fantasy with dragons. I'm not giving it the actual title for the story because I really don't want anyone else to steal this because remember, AI is theft. So it's a high fantasy with dragons called Burn Scale. This is the first chapter. The key characters for this chapter are Whitefire, a dragonborn woman who belongs to the illegal guild of dragon slayers. She is on a mission of vengeance against the dragons who killed her father. This time, she is just killing a dragon because it needs to be done. It gives her money and gives her an excuse to escape her cousin's stuffy manor back in the city of Lightfall. She also uses a living sword of flowing metal called Nemesis. She is supported by a dragoness named Pater German. He has been sent by the dragoness in Lightfall to deal with a problematic dragon and seek a peace between several dragon estates. He is also a member of the Slayers and intends to murder the dragon with Whitefire's help. Then there is a young Slayer whose name is Bryn. He's hoping for a chance to get glory and fame by killing a dragon. So, let's see here. Oh my gosh. It's only showing you guys right now. It's not showing you guys what I wrote up. Dang it. Come on, I want you guys to also be able to see. Let's see here. We are going to change. We're going to change the screen to the whole thing. All right, here we go. There we go. Haha! There we are. We got the infinite swirl. And okay, boom. So here we go. So you guys should be seeing this then. These are the details for the story that I am going to feed on over to ChatGTP. Let me... let's see here. Let's make this a little bit bigger so that way you guys can hopefully see properly what I've written right here. And let's see here. Does anyone want me to make this any bigger? If so, I can make it bigger. All right. Now then, I do need to include the dragon that we're going to be battling against here. A fun aspect of the dragons in Whitefire is that all of the dragons have very unique names, and all of them have very unique bodies. Almost no two dragons are the same. And some of the dragons, their names are in their ancient godly language. Other dragons use names that are smashing a combination of words. And then other dragons just use really, really weird made-up names that even on their world, people are like, wait, what? So, so for dragons who have names that are compound words, yes, grammar will be broken in this book. So we have Ursine Major is the dragon that Whitefire and the other slayers are supposed to kill. All right. Now then, Ursine Major is a dragon with more fur than scales. His head is like a bear's with large spiraled horns. He has demanded that the humans in the surrounding estates serve him instead of their dragon lords. Now then, within the world of Whitefire, the dragons divvy up the world of Draconia into various estates that they control, and they are then the lord of their particular estate. You have dragons who are vagabonds who try to steal from other dragons and from humans and dragonborn, and so Ursine Major just happens to be one of those kinds of dragons. He lives in the woods and demands that people bring him tributes, especially young women whom he likes to eat. He's a really, really horrible monster. So, the main purpose of this chapter is to introduce Whitefire and solidify her attitude towards the dragons who rule her world. This chapter will also set the atmosphere for the whole story by highlighting the high chances of death the oppression dragons bring to humans and dragonborn, and show off the actions readers can expect in the more violent parts of the book. The style of this book is to be dynamic and descriptive. The tone is both dark and adventurous. Now then, one of the things I know about working with AI is that AI thrives on more detail. The more you give it, the more it is able to tailor what it does to your tastes. So I've already given it its genre, I've given the tone, the characters, and the setting, chapter number or place in the story, the length or preference. So that means then I do need to let ChatGTP know how long I want this chapter to be. This chapter should be no longer than 6,000 words. Which I know, that's a lot. That's a lot of words. This book is meant to be a chonker. This book, when done, I foresee it being upwards of 400,000 words. I know that's big, but that's because there's a lot that's going to be happening in this book. Things that I intend to happen in this book are Not only do you have Whitefire, who's out for revenge, but you're also going to meet Eric, who is one of the other main characters. He's an orphan who is also out for revenge against the dragon who killed his dragon lord and plunged his estate into chaos. He is a human who's hoping to become a dragonist, and by becoming a dragonist, he'll be able to learn all the details and knowledge he needs to hunt down the dragon who killed his dragon lord and led to the death of his family. That is why Eric goes to the city of Lightfall, where Whitefire lives. And there they get contracted to go and save the other main character of this book, Silandria, from kidnapping. She is a dragon who is being held captive by another dragon in a dragon-guarded castle. This is basically me saying, what if the princess you were trying to rescue was actually a dragon? And she is, at least as far as this world would consider royalty, she is pretty close up there. Silandria is pretty close up there to dragon royalty, as being one of the leading members of a organization called the Serpentine Sisters, who are basically this world's version of the Illuminati, but way more open about it. They help to maintain order amongst the different dragon estates, and especially the dragon kingdoms, and their word could undo dragon kings and queens. And so other dragons want to make sure that they keep the Serpentine Sisterhood on their good side. The dragon who has kidnapped her, Thornbeard, wants to become a king, and he thinks that by forcing Silandria to marry him and forcing the Serpentine Sisterhood into his faction, that he will have an easier chance ascending to kingship. So there's politicking involved, all these other big things happening within the first book of Whitefire. So it's going to be big. That is why this chapter could very easily brush up against 6,000 words in length, but it should not be any longer than 6,000 words. That's a short story right there. Let's see here. Other details that I might want to feed this AI, so that way it knows kind of what to expect. Some of the things that are going to happen is this, because again, I want ChatGTP to have a fair fight against me, because I totally intend to beat it. So we're going to give AI its best shots. So some of the details for this chapter include that Peter is going to use gunpowder to defeat Ursine Major, or as they call it in this world, this is dragon powder. Because dragons are the most powerful beings in this world, and gunpowder is insanely explosive and threatening to humans, so they just associate with dragons. Dragon powder is banned on the world of Draconia. If any dragon finds out that you have gunpowder, they will kill you on the spot. Because gunpowder is one of the few things on the world of Draconia that can be used to level the playing field between humans and dragons, because humans have no magic. They need to use dragon powder to fight Ursine Major, because humans have no magic that they can readily use. There are some exceptions, but those exceptions will be explained throughout the book. Humans have no magical ability. It can only be gifted to them. Isa says, is Eric really that popular of a name? I named a character Eric in my book, and then my mom told me about her book, and Eric is one of the main characters. And then there's another. I recently renamed my character from Eric to Ericur. Yeah, I guess so. I didn't think that Eric was really that popular of a name. Apparently it is, but I'm sticking to it. Because originally I'd given him another name, and I'm like, no, that just sounds stupid. I'll go with Eric. Eric sounds nice. And I'll fantasize it, make it spelt more interesting, Eric, or something like that. So Peter will have the dragon powder and iron ballistae intended for Ursine Major hidden in very smelly barrels. This is to try and confuse the dragon. Meanwhile, Whitefire is lurking in the trees just above Ursine Major and is contemplating how she will kill him. Her sword, Nemesis, gives her hallucinations of how he would have killed the thug back when he was still alive and a dragon. So the sword Nemesis that Whitefire uses is a blade forged from a dead dragon. Is this something that can be normally done? The answer is no. Nemesis is a very, very unique individual and is very deadly to both its enemies and its wielder. Whitefire can transform Nemesis into different tools that allow her to get on top of Ursine Major and cut open the back of his neck, killing him. Say, Peter will unfortunately die. Bryn isn't of much help, but he's one of the few humans who stands his ground when Ursine Major is attacked with the dragon powder. Okay. Put that little Y there at the end of smelly. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? What do you think as far as information that I have given this? I've given this engine. I guess to say this all happens at night. All right. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you feel like I should add in more? Because again, more information that I give the engine, then the more even the playing field is between me and ChatGTP. I will also point out that the more information that I give the engine in order to create my story, I might as well just write it myself. Sure, I give it all this information, and as you guys will see, it will crank it out instantly. But if you're going to put that much effort into imagining the story and its world and the characters and how things are supposed to go down, why not write the story yourself? It'll be more rewarding. CDVA says they think it has enough. Again, want to hear from the rest of you guys. Do you think that the AI engine has been given enough information that it can crank out a comparable chapter to my own? Once I put this on and I show you guys where we go from here, it's insane how fast this cranks out the story. Again, I will not read the chapter once it has written it, because I do not want to be affected by whatever it might do. I think drink of water right there. And this is again just another element, honestly, about how this is so different from how AI is so different from a human. AI cannot come up with any of this. I have to feed it all of this. And so again, like it's just weird because yeah, I'm competing against ChatGTP, But ChatGTP could not write this story unless it was asked to write it and with this information. It would not, because it cannot, because it doesn't have a heart or soul. It can only do what it is prompted to according to its algorithms. So again, just we can bear that in mind as we go through this. All right. Say CDVA is the only one who's responded about whether or not it's had enough, so we'll say that it's had enough. I mean, without giving it the blow-by-blow of what I'm going to write, which could very easily change. What I right now have in my head for how I want the action to play out might change as I begin writing it and realizing, you know what? That actually doesn't work too well. We edit already as we write. Now then, ChatGTP is going to write the best first draft that it can. It will write a perfect first draft, one could say, based off of this information. So whatever it writes based off of this information will be perfect according to what it knows. I will be imperfect. And that's why again ChatGTP will outdo me in terms of writing skill, but it's about the heart. It's all about the hearts. So if we think, let's see here. ISO says, but could AI's work really be comparable to yours? It probably has enough to write the chapter, but I'm sure yours will be better. I mean, that's what I'm hoping, and it will be very interesting to see how this will all be compared. That's part of this experiment process. Not to mention that AI will never experience the dopamine satisfaction that a writer/artist gets from when they finally complete their story or picture. Amen. Yeah, a machine can't feel joy. It can only be told to feel joy, but it doesn't feel joy. All right. So, with all that now being written, done, said, let's take this. Copying it. And coming back on over here. All right. So there it all is. Oop. So there's all the information. Let's hit the upload. Nick says, imagine being told to feel joy and happiness. Feel joy, dang it. Feel it. Feel it. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Hold on just a moment here. That's fascinating. Okay, so I have this up. Very interesting. Because I didn't need to be logged in earlier. Help me write a chapter or a book. It's as if the AI suddenly realized, oh, wait a second. This guy is challenging me to a duel. I'm going to lose. How interesting. Okay. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Sign up. Okay, we're going to continue here with Google. Tell us about you. Brundon Sammy Sun Sandwich. My real birthday is coming up, but I'm not going to give this thing my actual birthday. Okay, let's go. Help me write a chapter for my book. right, there's all the stuff. Now let's paste it. It's all on in there, and here we go. Great, thanks for the details. Here's a draft of Chapter 1 of Burn Scale, written in dynamic descriptive style with a darkly adventurous tone. This opening introduces Whitefire, establishes the world's oppressive atmosphere, and ends with the explosive confrontation with Ursine Major. All right, so I will not read from this point on. I will just go and copy that later and put it away into its own document, which will then be shared again with there we go, stop sharing all that, which will again be shared with the members of Camille's harem, and and we'll then proceed as intended according to my outline. What the hey is going on here? How very interesting. Oop, I was like, I want to get footage, man. Oh, there we go. That's the problem. All right. You know, we will go back to Deltarune stuff because we were talking about Deltarune earlier. Anyways. Okay. So again, to refresh ourselves about what I'm going to be doing. So step 1, I'm going to compile everything I need for a first chapter to my book Whitefire. Step 2, I'm going to have ChatGTP write its take on my first chapter, and I will not read it. We have covered steps 1 and 2. I will then deliver this chapter to the rest of Camille's harem, and they will have the chance to read this chapter and critique it and come up with questions for me based on what ChatGTP wrote. And I will not know what those questions are or even what they're asking questions about, other than what I myself know should be in that chapter. And again, I could write down even more. This must happen, this must happen, this must happen, this must happen, this must happen. At that point, I might as well just write it myself. So that's why this is ultimately a real competition behind could ChatGTP capture my heart, my spirit, my experience, and put that into my idea? Or am I the only one that can do it? Because if I'm the only one that can do it, then I have struck ChatGTP at its heart and proven that it cannot replicate me. It might be able to outwrite me in terms of grammar and sentence structure. It might be able to outwrite me in terms of pacing. Might even have some cooler lines than I do. But my work will be mine. And if you can tell that that's the one that has the heart, then I have beaten AI. And anyone who's like, well, I can do better, I can write more. That's the thing, is that AI will always be able to beat me in terms of quality, but in terms of heart, that is what this is all about. If the AI program can capture my heart, then I have lost. But if it can't, then I have won. And the way that we will know if it's captured my heart is based on how you and the rest of the members of Camille's harem understand how you understand and how you interact with these two chapters that will be presented to you. You will not know which one is AI and which one is mine. That is the goal. And neither will, and so that's the way we have our blind test. And then for those who are not blind, those will be Camille's harem going into this. This is where we will really be able to check and see what is it like when people know that this is AI and what happens when people don't know it's AI. Whose wins out? So when they will read step 4, when they will read my first chapter, they'll review and critique it. 5, all of you. So once I have my chapter written the way I wish to have it, You will all be presented with that chat with both chapters. You will be given a quick little voting tab thingy that will ask you which one you thought was Lars's, document 1 or document 2. And then you will provide your critique of both documents. So this will be interactive. I will be relying on all of you in order to give me and AI our fairest shots at winning this contest. And only after we have then accumulated as many responses as we possibly can, then we will reveal the identity of each document. And my hope is to provide all of you with our breakdown as Camille's Harem, reveal what it's like when I'm put on the spot for what AI wrote, and then have that review with everyone about which one they liked better and why. And what does it matter? See, DVA says, yay, Deltarune background footage. Woohoo! Yay, the game Delta Airlines. Now we're getting to the good stuff. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And yeah, TV count, this is going to be interesting. I have no idea how this will all turn out in the end. And we will see. We will see. I am willing to put myself on the block, on the chopping block, as it were, with AI, and we're going to test this out as academically as we possibly could. I think that others, like real scientists, would probably have a much better way of capturing this kind of data. But I think that by doing this in a more personalized way, and with having our blind group versus the group that's in the know, that we then get true feedback from all different kinds of people. And I know that a lot of people who watch Camille's Harem are not fans of AI. And that's okay. And that's okay. But again, because you guys are going to be kept in the dark about how this is all playing out, this, I'm hoping, will be a true contest between me and the engine. And this will kind of be like John Henry versus the machine that drove in the nails for the railroad. Who can win? The steam engine or Big John Henry? And I'm hoping that I can beat John Henry and beat the machine. And hopefully I won't die in the process. All right. So, all right. Let's hear. We've gone at this for a little over 2 hours. Even with that weird blip there in the middle. I apologize, guys, for what happened there. So this weekend is a crazy one. The reason why we're doing the live stream today as opposed to Friday is because I have my niece's graduation beginning tomorrow. So this will be that'll be fun. But also, normally I would have the day off tomorrow and I could go on even longer. But I have to wake up early tomorrow to go to work because I have to help out with the maintenance for the machinery that's being used over at Biosphere 2. And I'll tell you guys actually something interesting I'm working on right here. I am working with, the job that I currently have, because I got a new job, woohoo, is I'm helping scientists over at Biosphere 2 measure and chart the flows of water and water retention on hill slopes, because effectively, like we though we know that underground water is a thing, it's never actually been truly tested or measured. And they're working on a 30-year experiment. Take that, 30-year experiment of testing water flow, measuring water flow. And effectively what this would be is that they want to be able to learn how the environment works in order then to create an actual environment on, let's say, Mars, where we could properly cultivate agriculture. So like this is kind of cool. This is for projects way in the future. They're also working on cultivating algae, working on cultivating coral reef over at the biosphere that they hope will be able to withstand global climate change in order to restore the reefs that are dying in the ocean. So I am not in the labs with these guys. I am not one of the guys taking down all the numbers and conducting the experiments. However, I get to help with the maintenance. That's my job. My job is the maintenance side of the research. So tomorrow I have to go in to conduct monthly maintenance, and then I go off to my niece's graduation. So we'll be ending the stream here pretty soon, just so that way I can get to bed at a decent time and not be dead in the morning. Because most Fridays, so even since I've gotten a job, have been me just feel like I don't have to go to work. I can veg out in the morning and just recharge my battery before getting back to work. Let's see here. Hey, Victor the Lore Seeker is here. Woohoo! My Blue Knight lost his melee match. Oh man, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I'm just back from finished the Medieval Times play. Well, awesome. Nick says you're really cooking up a great game scheme here, Mr. Lars. Not even AI is genius enough to come up with a game like this. Way to go, Lars. Hopefully the other members of the harem aren't listening in. Well, they already know. They already know what's coming their way. So I'm hoping to get this AI document into their hands ASAP, either tonight or tomorrow, so that way they can already start reading it. And then I have half a month, a little more than half a month, to write up my take on the chapter and have that given to them before we have our retreat next month. Then TV Count says, I remember someone who wrote their fanfic. They didn't even try to do the most fun part of writing fanfiction. LOL. See, that's just annoying. When someone uses AI to write something that should honestly be their own fanfic, I mean, come on. I totally agree with you, TV Count. Fan fiction is about you interacting with the work. So, yeah, you got to do that. Congrats on the new job, Mr. Lars. Well, thank you. This is just a part-time temporary job. So basically my job ends whenever they run out of stuff for me to do. And I have actually burned through most of the stuff that they want me to do by this point. So who knows for how much longer I'll be employed. But hey. That makes sense. This could be a great concept for another story, Lars. It could be. Though, as I have learned in my own experiences, I definitely need to put way more effort and thought behind doing anything that's even remotely really scientific beyond fantasy, sci-fi, science, where it's like, yeah, fantasy with science. So science is whatever I want it to be because fantasy. Ha ha! All right. So let's see here. To give you guys just a quick rundown of some of the stuff, some of the irons that I have in the fire. I need to record and get out as soon as possible my thoughts on Wind and Truth because I finally finished the book, and wow, such a fun book. I'm honestly shocked and saddened by how many people don't like it, and I also understand, I think, why some people don't like it. And I definitely have my own gripes with it, which I'm going to get all into with that video. I also need to get out as soon as possible before the next chapters of Deltarune are released. I need to get out my video on the love on let me get into the right voice for this. Take a drink of water. All right. So, in order to be somewhat on time with Deltarune chapters 3 and 4, I am going to release a video on the geometry of love within Deltarune. looking at the dynamics that have been presented to us of Caddy liking Noelle, Noelle liking Susie, Susie may be liking Noelle, Susie may be liking Chris, Chris may be liking Noelle, Chris may be liking Susie. The rivalry between Susie and Caddy that Susie doesn't even know that she's in. And then Birdley liking Susie. So I need to make a video about that messy geometry of love. Actually, one of the very first videos that I ever did on this channel was the geometry of love, looking at how you could do better than just simply a love triangle. And this will effectively be a graduation of that video, but specifically looking at Deltarune. So I'll be doing that. I'm going to try to do another live stream of me playing Elden Ring before Night Rain comes out. I will not meet my goal of rebeating Elden Ring again before Night Rain, and I'm okay with that. But then you guys will get to see me probably have some Night Rain footage in the near future, because I'm really looking forward to that game, as well as looking forward to Deltarune. And I really, really, really just need to get my butt into gear to finish this long video I have in mind for the comparison between the Battle of Helm's Deep and the Siege of Oregion. And as I've been constantly reminded recently, I need to finally finish my reviews and analyses of The Dragon Prince. When am I going to have that out? I do not know, because lots of videos, as you guys can already hear from me. On top of that, of course, there's now the writing the chapter to go into competition against ChatGTP. I am currently getting a book ready for publishing. Well, actually, you know what, guys? Because this is just fun. Let me see. Let me see if I can get this image up for you. All right. Let's see here. Nope. Okay. This is going to take a little bit. I know. I just sort of said, like, I can't stay up too much longer, because I actually do want to get to bed at a decent time. But I am really excited to share some of the stuff with you guys, because I am so excited for this book. I've been working on it for a while. It's coming out later than I expected or intended, but this one is going to be real fun. So, okay. So I'm finally getting it right here. Boar Hunt. All right. Hey, I'm Omega. Sorry I didn't show up for the stream. Hey, I'm Omega. I understand. Because I'm streaming on an irregular day, and everyone's got lives. I get that. Dorcas Adrians, wait, I'm too late. Hey, don't worry, Dorcas. You can always rewind and watch through this. Just watch out. Power goes out halfway through. But luckily, we didn't lose the stream. All right, let's see here. Let me get this image up. The downloads. And hopefully it shows up. Come on, picture. Okay. Interestingly, the pictures should be showing for you guys. It's not showing on my end. You guys should be able to see the boar hunt right there. And it says, wow, you're staying busy, Mr. Lars. I definitely need to get my life in check. I don't know how on earth how I managed to juggle things. I honestly drop way too much because I'm trying to tackle too much. But yeah, again, when I say I don't know when I'm going to get to certain videos, it's because I am really busy. At the same time, I am also editing my way through the 5th book in my Legend of the Ten Lords series, while getting the 4th book ready for publishing later this year. And I am gearing up for a special project that I'm going to begin next month. I am hoping to be able to complete that within 2 months. This will be a very different story from anything else I've written. All I will say is that it is D&D inspired, and it is going to be bonkers. And then I also have the mini table I have to finish building and set all of that up. I have thankfully been making progress in the world of math. Oh, hey, Pumbaa lost some weight. Pumbaa. And my friends never stood downwind. And oh, the shame. Oh, and he was ashamed. And I'm changing my name. Oh, what's your name? And I got downhearted. How did you feel every time that I... Pumbaa, not in front of the kids. Yeah. So, this is... So, I will say this. This is a scene... So this image that you guys should have there on your screen is from an all new scene for this particular story. This is based on a lesser known Grimm fairy tale, and I took so I'll give you guys just a little bit of details about this book before I finally do have to sign off. Ooh, I'm Omega did some art though. Fantastic! It's great to hear that you're keeping yourself busy. I'm Omega. And please always feel free to share your artwork if you wish. So what I've done for this particular story, in order to evolve it to a novella length like I did for Puss in Boots and the Dark Riddles, I took the typical rule of 3, which is the formula for this original fairy tale, and I expanded it to 7. In fairy tales, you have numbers that mean something. And usually within fairy tales, you have the rule of 3. The maiden, the mother, and the crone. The maiden, who is usually the hero of the story. The mother, who is the danger to the hero. And the crone, who is the older individual who usually provides assistance to the heroine or to the villain, to the mother. So maiden, mother, crone is usually the typical 3. Or you have 3 siblings, 2 wicked, 1 good, is usually your formula. But if you go for 7, so like for instance, Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, 7 is a way more powerful number, but is usually not used as often in shorter stories because they're meant to be short. So I expanded the fairy tale to 7, where the hero has 7 tasks, 7 trials that he must overcome. And this image is one of them. And for each trial that he overcomes, he receives a boon. He receives help from one of the creatures that he helps. If you know your fairy tales, you already then know which fairy tale this is. Because it's pretty distinct, but again, you kind of have to know your Grimm fairy tales in order to get it. Which I am so excited for when I finally get this book published, because I'll be able to bring this lesser known fairy tale hopefully to a much wider audience and be like, guys, the Brothers Grimm had some really weird stories, and I brought this one to life. That's a nice theory, but can you back it up with a source? The source is People's Magazine. You will not believe the 10 steps that Pumbaa has taken to regain his spice of life. Yes, the Brothers Grimm. Yes, and so this particular fairy tale that I'm adapting is one of the ones from the Brothers Grimm. And like I said, it is one of the lesser known ones. I want to basically tell a bunch of the lesser known fairy tales in my own style and set up an Avengers like event where all of these different lesser known fairy tales cross over. What I will spoil people with as far as stuff to look out for, and this might get some people really interested. So the Avengers level fairy tale that I will write is the 10 Dancing Princesses. That is the one. If you know your fairy tales, 10 Dancing Princesses is an interesting one. And that will be the one where I bring everything together and make it big. Isn't it 12? You know what? I've always said 12, and then everyone else always says 10. Brothers Grimm, I have you at my beck and call. I do, because I have a massive book of all their fairy tales right here. All right. Ooh, I actually opened it up right to the one that I've adapted for my next book, but that is not the one. Dancing Princesses. Really, 12? See, I said 12, and everyone's like, no, it's 10. All right. Well then, I stand chagrined and corrected. Thank you, everyone. The 12 Dancing Princesses. And if you don't know that one, look it up. It is a neat fairy tale. It's one that I'm honestly surprised. So there's the movie The Brothers Grimm. There's the movie Brothers Grimm, which explored tangentially the 12 Dancing Princesses storyline. But I'll be honest, I don't know of any story that really realized that the Brothers Grimm were sitting on a massive gold mine of narrative opportunity with the Dancing Princesses. According to Barbie, it's 12 in my book. Well, Barbie usually's got things right. And let's be honest, as silly as the Barbie movies sometimes are, they are actually the writers for those movies deserve a raise. Because they put a lot of effort into actually making those things good. At least as good as they can with the animation that they have at their disposal. The idle servants. But yeah, no, the 12 Dancing Princesses, when you stop to think about what is actually happening in that fairy tale, you should just be all why has this not been made into a movie? Why is this not a Netflix series? Why did the Brothers Grimm not expand on this in any kind of way to make it a novel? Because the implications in the 12 Dancing Princesses is huge. It is huge. What is all in that short story? Holy cow. But nope, we focus on Snow White, Cinderella, and Rapunzel and Sleeping Beauty. Meanwhile, there's an entire war waiting to happen. So, yeah. Let's see here. There's one. And of course, also the Little Red Riding Hood. There is, however... Let's see here. I want to find this one again. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the two brothers, the Golden Goose. But where are you? Oh. So what do you? So okay. So Hannah asked, "What do you mean by huge?" So spoilers for the fairy tale. There is an entire kingdom underneath the king's palace. And when I say kingdom, it's huge. And they've been kidnapping the princesses. And you're like, what? And the story skips over most of that. Also, the young man who goes up against the king and has to say and reveals what's going on. It's just wait, what? Where did you come from? There's a whole story behind this guy that's never explained. And you're this guy is one of the most interesting protagonists in any fairy tale. And he has no backstory. On top of that, the old witch who figures out how the girls are beating all of the suitors who are trying to figure out where they go to each night. And how the girls are sabotaging them so that way all of their suitors get killed by the king. How does the witch know what's going on? Because the witch knows what the girls are up to and what is underneath the palace. and she's the only one who knows, but she doesn't say how she knows. She decides, though, to help out the protagonist amongst everyone else who she could help. Why? What makes him so special? How does she know? Why is there an entire kingdom underneath the palace? Wait, the suitors die. Yeah, the king murders everyone who cannot tell him what happens to his daughters each night. His daughters are under lock and key. He has guards at the door, and his daughters disappear every night and their shoes break every morning. What is happening? And that is the mystery that has to be solved. Anyone who can solve the mystery will be allowed to take one of the king's daughters to wife. That is the prize. That's the prize. But if they should deceive the king and not have the correct answer, then he will put them to death, because it's a fairy tale. The punishment for not appeasing the king is usually death in these stories. And so you have this young man who is a veteran soldier who is wounded in the leg, so he can't fight anymore. So you're like, wait, what? Where did this guy come from? Like, what war? What war is being fought? What's his story? Is like, well, the only thing I have to lose is my life because I've lost everything else. So yeah, sure, I'll give this a try. And then the witch is all like, young man, you will be tricked by the girls. Here, drink this potion at night. It will save your life. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the moment that you stop to think about what's happening, you realize that this is a huge story. But it's so short. Wait a second. Okay, I'm Omega. Sorry, I didn't answer your question earlier. So do I share my works in the comments then? If you have links, please do. Yeah, if you have it linked, please do. If you just have images, raw images, and you don't have it linked, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to join our Discord, and you can upload it there to our arts channel, where we accept all different kinds of artwork for people's works, for their books, etc. If you wish to share. So yeah, if you have a link, share it in the comments. If you don't, feel free to join our Discord and share it that way. What the hell? Yeah. Wow, the Brothers Grimm version is even darker. That's to be expected. It's the Brothers Grimm after all. Yes. The original story is just like bonkers, but it's one of my favorites. And then here's another one that I'm going to adapt. The Robber Bridegroom. Oh boy. This one, let's see here. Do I have the right page number for it? The Robber Bridegroom. Okay. This one is weird. The Robber Bridegroom is the one story that I know of that has legit cannibalism in it. It is intense, and I've wanted to bring that one more to light because it's just you're like, wait, what? What is in these stories? So when people say that the Brothers Grimm have really dark stories, that's it. Because people are like, oh yeah, well, the queen dies a horrible death in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Oh, give me a break. The queen dies a horrible death in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I mean, it is pretty demented. She gets put into hot shoes and she dances herself to death. But some of the other deaths that happen are just, you're like, what? What the heck were these people thinking? It's so over the top. Okay, so there we go. That was a longer tangent than I expected, but you guys got to see a little bit of fun artwork right there. That's some of the stuff that I am working on. I will have my next book out real soon, and then I'll make a big how to do about that, because yeah, it's just so much fun. And if you want to prepare yourself for that book and help me out a little bit, if you wish, I would love it if you bought a copy of my book, Puss in Boots and the Dark Riddles. Because, yeah, Puss in Boots and the Dark Riddles. If you read this book, it'll give you a little bit of a leg up on the world that you'll be diving into with the next one, as well as you get an idea of what Puss is doing, because Puss in Boots does make a cameo appearance in this next book. And actually, not in this next book, but in the book after that, which I've just finished the rough draft for. That one is The Cudgel in the Sack. That's another really weird Brothers Grimm fairy tale, and one of my personal favorites because it is so off the walls. You're like, what is going on? But that'll be a conversation for another time. And the evil stepsisters and Cinderella literally cut off their toes in order to try and fit in the slippers. Yep. And you want to know what else? The prince is an idiot. The prince doesn't realize that they cut off their toes. It takes the birds coming down and singing to him, rockety-coo, blood is in the shoe. And it's like, rockety-coo, the blood is in the shoe. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're right. This glass slipper that I obviously am not looking at close enough to see through is full of blood. So he turns around and is like, hey, miss, can I have your next daughter, please? Oh my gosh. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here with me for this live stream. I will keep you all up to date with my progress against AI, how that's all going. You guys will have both chapters out relatively soonish. If I'm lucky, I can get both of them ready for you by the end of the month, beginning of next month. So that way, then you guys are kind of at the same page as we are at Camille's Harem as we go into the retreat. And then we'll bring everything together and we'll see the results of the experiment. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Wasn't the slipper gold in the Grimm version? I think it actually is. But still, you would think that the prince would realize that the shoe is overflowing with blood, like either glass or gold or crystal. The guy should realize that there's something very, very wrong. Why are your socks on so tight? What's with that red splotch at the front? All right. So again, I'll say, everyone, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, morning, day, wherever you are at. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.